Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you who are here in person and the many of you who are on Zoom. We have 27 screens on Zoom right now, and we hope some of you are watching on Facebook as well. We had intended to be outside tonight with food trucks and with the younger people of our congregation. The weather had other plans. We're expecting rain. I believe it's not coming down right now, but better safe than sorry in this case. So we're thrilled to see all of you who are here and the various capacities in which you are. Just a couple of things. We are, as you have seen in your email, working really hard to keep all of us as safe as we possibly can be. So a couple things that we have put in place. We're distancing, as you see, every other row and 3 seats apart in between pods, so thank you for following that. Thank you for keeping your masks on to keep everybody safe. And we have started through the high holidays, only clergy allowed on the bima for the safety not just of the rabbis and myself, but for everybody else. So I am right now up here alone, joined by Paul Binko. We have an awesome team of AV people who will be with us on the high holidays, so we're really grateful that they're here. And in a little bit, we'll get to hear from Rabbi Herman, which is very exciting. Rabbi Sabbath sends her regards. She'll be back with us next Shabbat. So we are going to begin with a nigun, a wordless melody. Tonight was our camp Shabbat. Some of you got in the spirit. I love that. This is a nigun, a wordless melody called China Camp Nigun. Yai lai la lai la lai. Yai lai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai. Yai lai lai. Yai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai. This is a piece of music written by Dan Nichols. Dan wrote, "I was having a rough day. Nevertheless, it was time to sing for Shabbat. I wasn't feeling ready, so I treated myself to a sunset drive on North San Pedro Drive in San Rafael, California, on the way to Congregation Rodef Shalom. This picturesque, switched-back road winds through China Camp State Park. As I gazed across the late afternoon, sunlit, kissed waters of San Rafael Bay, I began to sing to myself, quietly at first, then louder and louder. By the time I arrived at Rodef, China Camp Nigun was written, and I was ready for Shabbat." Yai lai la lai la lai. Yai lai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai. Yai lai lai. Yai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. We continue on page 10 with the singing of Hine Ma Tov. How wonderful in every capacity is it that we're all here together. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine again. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov like to call up Susie Levine and Jody Alpert to our table right back there to light our Shabbat candles. We are on page 2 as we join together in kindling the lights of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel
As the Shabbat candles give light,
I'll do it with you.
Okay. As the Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find the knowledge by which we live.
Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, and all who bring the offering of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to continue with the Kabbalat Shabbat section of our service. This is where I really hope you'll feel like you're at camp. Close your eyes. I know at the camp that I went to, the Beit Tefillah, the house of prayer, is in this beautiful wooded area with wooded benches and trees everywhere, and they call it Beit Tefillah green, the green that surrounds us. So we're not outside tonight, unfortunately, but I hope you'll be able to join in singing and celebrating the spirit of camp and Shabbat. We are going to begin on page 13 with Shir Chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash again, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shir Chadash, Shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, Shir Chadash. I will sing unto God a new song. Page 14, the bottom paragraph. Or Zaruah LaTzadik U'Yishrei LeSimcha. Or Zaruah LaTzadik U'Yishrei LeSimcha. continue with Lecha Dodi on pages 20 and 21. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to segue from one Lecha Dodi into another. Ordinarily, I would not indulge in this Lecha Dodi without children in the room, and I realize there are no children in the room, but it really brings in the spirit of camp. It's a personal favorite of mine, so I hope you'll join me. We're going to be singing verses 1, 2, and 9. Before the 9th verse, I'll ask you to rise where you are and face the door so we can greet the presence of the Shabbat bride together. Page 20.
Shabbat
all have a seat, and I am just thrilled to invite up Rabbi Herman, who will be sharing some wise words of wisdom with us.
I hope. Shabbat Shalom. I thank you, Cantor Fox, for inviting me and for, in the midst of this magnificent sanctuary, trying to set a tone of what it would be like out in the woods at camp. That's not easy to do. I think that this is the first time I've had an opportunity to speak to the congregation from the Bema since we have joined together and started having services together a little more than a year and a half ago. Of course, as you know, those of you who know me know that I'm not shy about saying what's on my mind. I'm very sad, actually, that it has to be an occasion such as this for me to be invited to speak. Not that I want to speak all the time, please, but of course, I am here because Rabbi Sabbath Beit Halachmi, his mother passed away, as we know. We offer her family our condolences. I believe that there will be Shiva here outside in the tent on Sunday night and Monday night, and I'm sure that you will receive more information via email when Shabbat is over, or maybe before, or maybe you've already gotten it. I haven't looked at my email this afternoon. Huh? I believe it was our president, David Buchhalter, who at one point talked about this congregation, our Sinai Oheb Shalom congregation, being the oldest and the newest congregation, at least in Baltimore. It reminded me, and some of you have been there, if you haven't and you got an opportunity, you should go, of the Alt Neuschule in Prague. Literally, the old new synagogue. And it is Europe's oldest active synagogue. It's also the oldest surviving medieval synagogue of twin nave design. It was completed in 1270. Now, we're not quite that old. But as I thought about it, and I thought about what David had said, I'm not in the business of naming or renaming this congregation, but might that be a name for Har Sinai Oheb Shalom? The Alt Neuschule. Enough of that. We're certainly not as old as the shul in Prague, but we are the newest in Baltimore and perhaps in the Reform movement. And yet we cannot, nor should we, ignore our history. Almost 180 years since the founding of Har Sinai, and if we combine the two congregations' ages, we would come up with almost 350 years of synagogue life. That's a long time. And we know that we have a glorious history, which we sometimes remind ourselves of too much. But we can't just dwell on who we have been. That will not lead us into the glorious history which we envision. And we are not dwelling on who we have been. Which brings me to this week's Torah portion, Ki Tavo. The Israelites are camped on the plains of Moab across the Jordan River, about to enter the Promised Land. And in Moses' third speech, actually all of the book of Deuteronomy are speeches of Moses. Not what God says, but what Moses says. And in Moses' third speech to the people, he, in an interesting Torah portion, he tells them what is going to happen in a way, but he also reminds them of who we have been. So listen to what may be some familiar verses from our Torah portion this week. And this is not at the beginning, but very close after. Arami Oved Avi, Vayared Mi Mitzrayim, Vayagar Sham Bamte Ma'at, Vayahi Sham Logoy Gadol Atzum Varav. I'll translate for you, although I'm sure most of you understood exactly what I was saying. My father was a fugitive Aramean. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. But there he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried out to God, and God heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. God freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, an awesome power, and by signs and portents. He brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Familiar? Where do you know that phrase? At least the beginning from. From where do you know that? That's more proper English. Nobody recognizes it? It's the wrong time of year. That is the, what, Mina? Yes, it's the beginning of telling the story in the Passover Seder, in the Haggadah. My father was a wandering Aramean. And here, in one paragraph, you have the entire history of the Hebrew people from the time of Abraham up to the place where they are about to enter the Promised Land. It's all there in one paragraph. Cantor Evan Kent has suggested that the verses of this ancient ritual succinctly encapsulate the history of the Jewish people from, my insertion, Abraham and Sarah, a wandering tribe, to entering the land of Israel, to offering these gifts of first fruits to the priest at an ancient temple in Jerusalem. It is a ritual embracing both history and gratitude. And as words are recited, there is an awareness of how the actions of the past have brought them to the present day. I would suggest that we are exactly like our ancestors who are about to enter the Promised Land. We have entered a new history in the long history of our two historic congregations. That's a lot of history in one sentence. Like Moses to the Israelites, we will continue to tell our history, our story. But like Moses to the Israelites, we must not dwell on that story, on that history, or perhaps herstory. We must look forward to be grateful for who we are, who we were, who we are, and especially who we are to become. The next verse, which I did not read, which is part of that paragraph, because it describes a ritual that is supposed to take place once the Hebrews, the Israelites, enter the Promised Land. The next verse is, "Wherefore I'll now bring the first fruits of the soil which you, God, have given me." And the ritual was to bring the first fruits, the first produce of the land, to the priest as a sacrifice. That's all about the future, because the Israelites are standing across the Jordan. They're not even in the land yet. And we know, because we've read the rest of the book, we know that it takes a long time for them to conquer it. That's all recounted in some would say, the sixth book of the Torah, the book of Joshua. And yet Moses is saying to them, look, this is going to happen, and we have to be grateful for it. It envisions a time yet to come after the land is settled and cultivated and produces crops. Then, Moses says, remember and give gratitude to God for where we have been and for where we are and for what we have become. This Torah portion, like so many Torah portions, is also not just about our ancestors, it's also about us. Now, I want to end by quoting our Rabbi Sabbath Beit Halachmi. You can read this in the Sabbath, the whole text, in the Sabbath supplement if you are here in the sanctuary. If you are at home, you can find it on the email that was sent out today announcing services and things for the weekend. I found it a while ago, and I want to share part of it with you. She comments on this verse, which is almost at the end of this week's Torah portion. These are the terms of the covenant which the Eternal commanded Moses to conclude with the Israelites in the land of Moab, in addition to the covenant which we had made with them at Horeb. So some say that Sinai, Horeb, was the final revelation to the Jewish people. Well, not really. It was the most important, perhaps. That's where the Torah was given. But traditionally, all the rest of Jewish literature, everything originates at Sinai. So why does Moses say we need to make an additional covenant here before we cross into the land, some 40 years later? As Rabbi Sabbath writes, as the Israelites are straddled between two mountains on the way to a new reality, Moses advises them to rethink the covenant. The covenant delivered on the plains of Moab created what can be described as the establishment of mutual accountability within the Jewish people. This mutual accountability requires that we are mindful of each other. We're not just a collection of individuals. Our future also depends upon our capacity to live as a community, a well-formed collective entity. Especially at this time of year, she writes, and in this age of Reformed Judaism, and in this community, I add, we need to renew our commitments and our understanding of covenant and mutual responsibility. Ultimately, and especially at this moment, our mutual commitment both to each other and to our old new community, our old new congregation, our Alt Neuschul, will be powerful sources for the covenants we need in order to thrive in the future. May we listen to these words of Torah, words of our rabbi. May we take them to heart, and may it be so soon, now, and in our time. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Herman. Such a gift to have you with us tonight. So as we shift to our Ma'ariv section of our service tonight, we begin traditionally with Baruch Hu. Now, we are taught that Baruch Hu is the moment in the service, our call to worship. Who's heard that before? Call to worship, that's okay, so it's our call to worship. It's also the moment where if we have a learned ear as a Jew and we know what's up, so to speak, we can listen and we can tell for the first time what day it is, what time of day it is. It's the music of the Baruch Hu that marks the moment. So we're going to take a step out of the traditional liturgy before we turn to the Baruch Hu. We're right in the middle of the Hebrew month of Elul. Rosh Hashanah is a week and a half away, and we have been throughout this month bringing in different texts and music to bring up the spirit of Elul as we all take this month to gear up for the high holiday season, literally and metaphorically. And so we're going to be on page 358 with Psalm 27, Achat Sha'alti. If you know the psalm, I bet that this piece of music is different than the one you know. It is a little bit newer than the more traditional one, so I hope that you will be able to kind of take it in and enjoy it. Page 358. Achar Sha'alti Meit Adonai Achar Sha'alti Otavakesh Achar Sha'alti Meit Adonai Achar Sha'alti Otavakesh Shivti Beveit Adonai b'noam Adonai, to gaze upon the beauty of Adonai. One thing, I ask you, Adonai, to be with you all of my life. I invite you to rise and turn to page 28 as we join together in the Baruch Hu. Please join me on the bottom half of page 33 as we read together responsively. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things, your Torah keeps. And the more we devour ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. Then this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Oheb amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who loves your people Israel. You're on page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvchol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha vishinantam levanecha vidibarta bam veshivtecha beveitecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu litotafot bein einecha uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Liman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liod lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it's eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. And oh boy, do we need to metaphorically join hands these days with those around us to weather whatever storm is coming our way. So we join together in remembering all that our people have been through in our long history. We're in Mi Chamocha, page 40. Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nidar b'kodesh, Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha nidar b'kodesh. Norai tehilot, osei vele, Norai tehilot, osei vele, Adonai melech leolam va'ed. Malchutecha ra'u v'necha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze Elianu ve'amru, ze Elianu ve'amru, Adonai melech leolam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nidar b'kodesh, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nidar b'kodesh. Norai tehilot, osei vele, Norai tehilot, osei vele, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. We're on page 42 with our prayer, Hashkivenu. I will share, since I have the mic tonight. Hashkivenu is my favorite prayer. My favorite prayer throughout my adult life has kind of gone in and out, but Hashkivenu has been my favorite prayer for a number of years now, and it's because of the symbolism. Sukkot, Shlomecha, guard over us, a shelter of your peace. Talit can be a symbol for shelter, and I love reminding myself of how it keeps me safe and comfortable when I'm praying. So we are on page 42, Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzeiteinu, uvoeinu, l'chaim u'shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Baruch atah b'voecha, uvaruch atah b'tzeitecha. Another verse from this week's Torah portion, Ki Tavo. Blessed are you in your coming and your going. Blessed are you, all of you, sitting here in the sanctuary, those of you on Zoom and on Facebook. We are all blessed in our comings and our goings. These words, as Rabbi Herman spoke about earlier from this week's Torah portion, Kitavo, as we find ourselves situated tonight in the middle of Elul, on the second to last Shabbat before Rosh Hashanah, but who's counting? As we watch daily, perhaps even hourly, as hospitalizations due to COVID continue to rise, I'd like to suggest that these sacred words have more heightened meaning. Over the next several weeks, we'll come together for the High Holy Days, really beginning tomorrow night with Slichot, a little plug, 7 p.m. concert, 8:15 p.m. service in Baltimore Hebrew's congregation. I had a rehearsal yesterday with them, and I will tell you the music is just going to be magnificent. Some of us will be for the High Holy Days here in our Green and Mom Sanctuary. Others of us will be outside in the tent, and many of us will be joining our community safely from our homes. But we will all be together. Shiviti Beit Adonai, Shivti, Shivti Beit Adonai, sitting in this house of God, just as we are now, regardless of where you actually are. Last week, in one of our Elul classes, Preparing Your Heart and Mind for the High Holidays, I asked everybody what their favorite part about the High Holiday services are. One person shared that she has family all around the country, and she loves thinking about how her family members are sitting in their own synagogues, singing the same songs and words of liturgy that she is concurrently while she sits here at HSOSC. Our liturgy, sacred text, and music connects us to one another from wherever we might actually find ourselves. This idea is not only relevant to the High Holy Days, but really to Jews everywhere on a daily basis. As we celebrate Shabbat as one community tonight, some of us in this sanctuary, some of us are here, others are joining from home, and all of us together are a link in this chain of our beautiful Jewish tradition. Echad Ha'am said, more than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Each of us, Shivti Beit Adonai, sits in this house of God, in our comings and in our goings, regardless of where we might find ourselves. One thing we ask of you, God, is to be with us all of our lives. One thing, I ask you, Adonai, to be with you all of my life. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai yai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai yai lai, yai lai 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 lai. We rise and join together on page 46 for our Amidah. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, V'zocher chastei avot ve'imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Please be seated. At this point in our service, we turn our thoughts to those who are in need of healing. There are many, many kinds of healing. Healing of the body is just one. Healing of the mind, healing of the spirit, healing of the soul. I'm going to read this list in a moment, and for those of you who are on Zoom and on Facebook, if you'd like to share names of people in your lives who need healing, I'll read them aloud. Our community tonight is thinking of Harry Bernstein, Harold Blankman, Rosalie Davison, Joel Hirschman, Harav Miriam Bat Ita V'chaim, Toby Jaffe, Art Khan, Buddy Kaufman, Morris Levy, Joan Schusheim, Beth Mayer Smith, Paul Tringali, Mary Wallace, Monroe Zeffert, Fred Zimmerman. And as the folks on Zoom are sharing names, I will invite those of you here, if you have names, people who you're thinking of, invite you to share them aloud. We're also thinking of Faith Zenker, Bill Kamar, Karen Brenner-Williams, Judy and Gary Katz, Robin Licker, and Bay Ackerman. We hold all of them along with everybody else in this broken world who needs healing in our hearts. We join together on page 253. Mi shebeirachavotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. invite you to turn to page 60 as we join in singing Shalom Rav, one of our several prayers for peace. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom rav Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rav Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom rav Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rav Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. We take a few moments for silent reflection. Oseh Shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu. We're on page 62. This is a Oseh Shalom that I learned from camp. So repeat after me. Page 62. Oseh Shalom, Oseh bimromav hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael together, amen. I invite you to rise as we turn to page 282 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, ateit gedula liotzer breishit, shelo asanu kigoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vigor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. This time we turn our thoughts to the mourners of those who are no longer with us. We think, especially tonight, of Rabbi Sabbath and her family as they are in the period of Shiva for Rabbi Sabbath's mother, Suzanne Wells Sabbath, Tzipora Sarah Bat Lev Devora, who died on Monday. And as Rabbi Herman noted, we will be having Shiva here on Sunday night and Monday night from 7 to 8 underneath the tent, as long as the weather cooperates. And I'm sure the whole Sabbath Beit Halachmi family would be just overjoyed and full of comfort to see those of you who are able to join us. Our community this week is also thinking of Dora Kusid, Yosef Sakirsky, Cantor Israel Izzy Goldstein, Dolores Weinberger, and Alan David Gallant, all of whom have died within the past 30 days. We are also remembering Abraham Blattner, Sidney Carl Kaplan, Julius L. Herman, Abe Himmelfarb, Dr. Samuel Livingston, Anita Lee Wineapple, William A. Franklin, Paul Harris Friedman, Sidney Green, Nathan Candle Colander, and Dorothy Spritzer. In a moment, I'm going to ask if any of you have people who you'd like to remember, and in the meantime, if you are on Zoom and you would like to write the names in the chat of people who you're remembering tonight, I will read them aloud. If anybody has anybody who they're saying Mourners Kaddish for, please feel free to share their names with everybody. And Ruth Sittler and Sandra Berman. If you are in a period of mourning in Shiva or Shloshim and you would like to rise so that we can all recognize you and give you extra comfort. If you're observing a yard site tonight, I will ask you to rise. And if it is your custom and you would like to rise as we join together in the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabah, be'alma divrach chirute v'amlich malchute, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevorach le'olam ul almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudasha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be blessings to us. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imeru amen. I am thrilled to welcome our president, Dr. David Buchalter, who with our amazing team of staff and lay leaders has just been working tirelessly the past week plus. I'm going to actually ask you, Doctor, to stand by that microphone.
Stay away.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Cantor Fox. Thank you, Paul. Your music tonight was beautiful and took me back to Henry S. Jacobs Camp in Utica, Mississippi, where I spent 9 summers. And Rabbi Herman, you took me back there in so many other ways as well. I've told you this personally, your accent takes me home, and I'm glad you still have it because I lost mine a long time ago. But thank you for stepping up, and I'm glad that you got to share your words of wisdom with us tonight. And thank you, Cantor Fox, for your flexibility and being able to kind of improvise on the fly, both in terms of leading the service and the weather. It's just, we're very thankful that you're here. A few announcements. Shabbat morning Torah study with Bill Bronstein will be Zoom only at 8:45 a.m. Services with Cantor Fox will be 10:15 a.m. Zoom only as well. Cantor Fox already mentioned the Slichot concert, Har Sinai Oheb Shalom congregation in conjunction with Baltimore Hebrew, beginning at 7 p.m. at Baltimore Hebrew tomorrow. Mazer morning minyan will be Zoom only as well, Sunday morning at 9 a.m. You all have gotten notification about High Holy Days drive-by. The prayer book pickup is Sunday 10 to 12 and Tuesday 1 to 3. And we have a volunteer opportunity this Sunday 1 to 4. It's an opportunity called Collaborating for Care. It's a farmer's market and food distribution, and that's at 1 to 4 p.m. And you can get more information at hsosc.org. As also noted, Shiva for Rabbi Sabbath's mom, Suzanne Wells Sabbath, will be Sunday and Monday under the tent, 7 to 8 p.m. And our hearts do go out to Rabbi Sabbath and her family, and we are with her, and she knows that. And then see your emails for all kinds of good stuff. The prayer schedule for Rosh Hashanah is on the back. Your email has it. So see those emails for the lineup and the sign up. If you look at that, you'll see that our lineup and sign up is really to balance safety and inclusion in our High Holy Day worship. And so thankful to Cantor Fox, Rabbi Sabbath, Abby Hoffman, other lay leaders, Jess Krasnick, and Barbara Schlaff for really putting in, as Cantor Fox said, just countless hours going.
Amy.
And Amy, of course. How could I forget Amy? Amy, I mean, yep. Amy Maller. Really countless hours, just debating and back and forth and massaging. And I think we've landed somewhere that is going to be very special for all of us. So Shabbat Shalom, and look forward to seeing you all soon.
David, thank you. I'm actually going to ask you to stay there for a moment. So one of the ways that we, as I mentioned in the beginning of the service, that we have, that we're trying to keep our whole community safe is to have clergy only on the bima, which unfortunately means there will be no honors this High Holy Day season. So we're doing what we can to make it a special experience. So since you're there, if you would not mind, on behalf of everybody, picking up the glass of wine as we join together in our kiddush, our Shabbat evening kiddush on page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Want to take a sip? And David, if you would not mind picking up the challah, and I'm going to ask if anybody who's here in person or on Zoom has a special occasion that they're celebrating. If you're here in person, I'll ask you to just rise where you are. If you're on Zoom, raise your hand or type it in. We would love to celebrate with you. Anybody? Seriously? All right, okay then, I tried. We joined together with the Motzi, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Thank you. As we conclude our service tonight, we are going to be on page 353 with Odiavo. How can we have a camp service and not sing Odiavo? A special thank you tonight to Rabbi Herman for your beautiful teaching, Paul Binko on the piano, and Zephin Blacksburg and Mike Prout and their whole team who have helped with our audio and our visual tonight, who make the online and in-person experience what it is. And they'll be with us throughout the whole high holiday season, and we're so grateful. Page 353. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Shabbat shalom, everybody.